From a small-town church to a multi-million-dollar business, every great success story begins with a simple decision. This one starts in a quiet American town where almost nobody believed big dreams could come true. There was a teenage boy named Ethan. His family wasn't wealthy. They lived in a small house across the street from a local church. While most kids spend their afternoons playing video games or hanging out with friends, Ethan had a different routine. Every single day after school, he walked into the church. Not because he had to, because he wanted to. Inside the church was an elderly monk who had devoted his life to faith, wisdom, and helping others. He never talked about becoming rich or famous. Instead, he spoke about discipline, purpose, patience, and believing in yourself even when nobody else did. Ethan would sit quietly for hours, listening to every word. One afternoon, the monk smiled and asked, "Why do you keep coming here every day?" Ethan looked down for a moment before answering, "Commercials, when I leave this place, I feel like my future is bigger than my circumstances." The monk nodded. "Remember this, your background may shape your beginning, but your choices will shape your future." Those words stayed with Ethan forever. Years passed. After graduating from high school, Ethan realized that if he wanted a different life, he couldn't stay where he was forever. With just a few $100s, a backpack full of clothes, and a heart full of determination, he moved to a large city. The first few months were incredibly difficult. He rented a tiny apartment. He counted every dollar before buying groceries. Some nights, he skipped dinner just to save money. He missed home. He missed his family. He even missed the peaceful silence of the church. But every time he thought about giving up, he remembered the monk's words, "Your choices create your future." Eventually, Ethan landed a job at a growing technology company. It wasn't glamorous. He wasn't the CEO. He wasn't making six figures. He started at the bottom. His responsibilities were simple: organizing files, helping customers, learning new software, completing tasks nobody else wanted to do. But Ethan had a different mindset. Instead of asking, "How much am I getting paid?" he asked, "What can I learn today?" He stayed late. He volunteered for extra projects. He learned from experienced co-workers. He watched successful leaders carefully. While others rushed home at 5 o'clock, Ethan stayed another hour reading business books in the office break room. 2 years went by. By then, Ethan understood something that changed everything. Working for someone else could teach him valuable skills, but building his own business could give him freedom. So he made the biggest decision of his life. He quit his job. Many people thought he was making a huge mistake. His friends told him, "You have a stable paycheck. Why risk everything?" Some family members worried, "What if your business fails?" Even strangers laughed. Thousands of businesses shut down every year. But Ethan remembered another lesson from the monk: fear builds prisons. Courage builds opportunities. Using nearly all the money he had saved, Ethan launched a small business from a tiny rented office. The office wasn't impressive. The furniture was old. The walls were plain. Sometimes he worked alone for 16 hours a day. There were days when nobody called, weeks without enough sales, months filled with uncertainty. Several times he wondered if everyone else had been right. But instead of quitting, he kept improving. He listened to customers. He fixed mistakes. He invested every dollar back into the business instead of buying expensive cars or luxury clothes. Slowly, things began to change. One happy customer recommended another. That customer recommended 5 more. The business kept growing. Ethan hired his first employee, then his 5th, then his 20th. Every year the company became stronger. While many competitors focused only on making quick money, Ethan focused on building trust. His reputation spread across the country. 7 years later, the small office had become the headquarters of a successful international company. His products were being used by customers around the world. The company opened offices in multiple countries. Business magazines started writing about him. News channels invited him for interviews. People called him an overnight success. But they never saw the years of sacrifice. They never saw the sleepless nights. They never saw the fear, the failures, or the countless moments when quitting would have been easier. By his early 30s, Ethan had become a multi-millionaire. He owned beautiful homes. He drove luxury cars. He traveled the world. But despite all his success, there was one place he never forgot. One weekend, Ethan drove back to his hometown. The church looked exactly the same. The old wooden doors, the quiet hall, the peaceful atmosphere. The monk, now much older, was still sitting in the same place. When he saw Ethan, he smiled. I knew you'd come back someday. Ethan sat beside him, just like he had years ago. For a few minutes, neither of them spoke. Finally, Ethan said, "Everything I have today started right here." The monk smiled gently. "No, it started the day you decided to believe that your future could be bigger than your present." Ethan looked around the church and realized something powerful. Success wasn't created the day his company became profitable. It wasn't created when he signed million-dollar deals. It wasn't created when magazines put his face on the cover. Success had been created years earlier, when a young boy chose to spend his afternoons learning instead of complaining, when he chose courage over comfort, growth over excuses, discipline over distractions. Before leaving, Ethan made a generous donation to help renovate the church and support young people in the community. He wanted other kids to have the same opportunity he once had, to hear words that could change an entire life. As he walked toward his car, the monk called out one final sentence. "Never measure your life by how much money you earn. Measure it by how many lives you inspire." Ethan smiled, because he finally understood that real wealth isn't just found in your bank account. It's found in your character, your perseverance, your willingness to keep going when life gets difficult, and your decision to never stop believing in your dreams. Remember this: your circumstances may write the first chapter of your story, but your decisions write the ending. So dream bigger, work harder, stay humble, and never give up. Your success story could be the next one the world talks about.